South Africa is aiming at strengthening bilateral relations and economic cooperation with China. The country is intensifying efforts to grow its exports to China. This at a time when South Africa faces a U.S. tariff of 30% starting from August 1st. Analysts say China plays a crucial role as an alternative market, but they caution against Beijing being a simple one-to-one replacement for the United States, citing trade complexities and the risks of over-dependence. A high-level delegation recently concluded a week-long visit to Beijing, led by South Africa Deputy President Paul Mashatile. The delegation pitched for investments and strategic opportunities to diversify the nation's export basket beyond basic commodities. Higher value products such as pharmaceuticals, automotive goods, and green energy technologies were discussed between South African and Chinese sides. South Africa is seeing a growing trade deficit that heavily favors China, and Mashatile explained that tackling these challenges required expanding South Africa's export portfolio, encouraging value-added exports. They said South Africa's trade deficit with China had risen from less than $1 billion annually between 1988 and 2000 to $9.71 billion by 2023. And for more details, our correspondent Kalden Ongmu reports from Johannesburg.
There's a famous saying, one man's loss is another man's gain. And China is doing its best to live up to that. After US announced imposition of tariffs on goods from several countries worldwide, South Africa was also not spared. In fact, many African countries have been impacted severely. However, China is doing everything it can to court the African continent to expand its trade with Beijing. Many businesses in South Africa had already started exploring alternative markets in Africa, Asia, Europe, and the Middle East to reduce reliance on the US as soon as the initial announcement was made by Trump. Facing a US tariff of 30% from August 1st, South Africa is intensifying efforts to significantly grow its exports to China and address a persistent trade imbalance. Last week, Deputy President Paul Mashatile called on China to urgently open its market to more local goods to cut an increasing trade deficit between the two countries. This is Kalden Ongmu from Johannesburg, South Africa for WION World is One.